It's 2 hours away from Guadalajara and 3 hours away from Puerto Vallarta, so it's in the middle. I grew up there until I was 18 years old, and then I moved to Guadalajara to continue with my studies. It's an honor to be here and share it with you, because I know if this event that you saw on the internet on a friend that told you and you're here, is because La Reina called you. It's a call that we understand, that the people that's connected with this Agave spirit, with this La Reina project, is people that shares the same values. So.
Raicilla. There's 16 municipalities that can call Raicilla, and we have two major zones. You have the coastal zone, which is near Puerto Vallarta, and then you have the Sierra zone, which is Mascota, Atenguillo, Talpa, in between Puerto Vallarta and Guadalajara. So with these two zones, we have 5 types of agave that can produce Raicilla, and they're all specified in the denomination of origin. Our Raicilla is made only 100% Agave Maximiliana, which is the most abundant species in 5,000 feet elevation. So really, the higher you get, the more sugars the agave has. And this is something really unique, because even with the Raicillas from the region, the more effort you try to go to the places that nobody has touched, that has the higher sugar content on the agave. 12, 14, even 20 years of wild agave that is used to make the production. Okay? From 2013, we have started domesticating this plant, and we have what we call a semi-wild agave. That it means that it grows on a greenhouse until 1 year, and then we transplant the agaves to the forest. I just wanted to give a quick introduction on Michael. We met through an exchange program with the government of Jalisco. Thank you, Michael, for your participation.
Thank you.
As JP just mentioned, we met on this Zoom call for different producers in Jalisco last October, actually. So we've known each other a little over a year. And so I talked to various different mezcal, tequila producers, and when I met them over Zoom, I was like, this couple has something special, they have a heart. And I was like, I don't know how I can support them, but I want to support them. And so when he says that you're welcome to come to Puerto Vallarta, he means it. Me and my family packed up and we visited last December, got to know them, because it's important to know people, right? And to know and to see like the passion that goes into the Raicilla they're making. And then fortunate enough, I was able to travel this past February to Atenguillo, and then to actually visit the taberna to meet the master Raicillero, Don Julio, the agave to be ready to be harvested. How many years? 8. Very good. We have an expert Raicillero, I think. So 8 years minimum. Okay. So when I visited in February, we had the opportunity to use the koa, which is like a hoe, right, to harvest the agave, and this thing was over 1 meter high. It was 13 years old, and it was massive. Here he has boots on, but he had sandals on, and he's just chopping it up. You're like, wow, it's like I would lose all my toes, but we had the opportunity to harvest it, and then once you take off all the leaves, you have what's called the piña, right? You have to harvest the agave, and these can weigh up to like 50 kilograms. These are massive piñas, and because you have that, like JP said, this beautiful accumulation of sugars because of the length and the age of the actual agave Maximiliana. So first part is harvesting, right? Got to be able to harvest it, and Don Julio is the one who decides when it's time by actually tasting the sugars. So the next part is what?
Cooking
it. Yeah. I don't even need to be up here. So you cook it, right? So we even got to toss the piñas in You're very skilled if you could do further away. I kind of cheated because I didn't want to be the one who would like knock the piña off the oven, right? So the oven is actually cooked with coals a full day before the piñas are thrown in. And so you get like these, it's like white, these embers of coal at the temperature Don Julio wants. They throw in the piñas. The technique to do this is they should be like, in my opinion, Major League Baseball players or something, because, and the distance, it's like, this is incredible. And him and his sons are just making it happen. They seal it for 3 days, and that's how long that the agave is cooked. So since you all are so good at this, what do you think is the next part of the process? We've gone through harvesting, we've gone through cooking. What happens after the agave has been cooked? Mashing. Excellent. You make it easy for me. See, in this way we get to enjoy more raicilla. So it's put in an open log, right, that's cut in half. And then you use, it's called a masa. It's basically a large stick with a big wood, it's like a mallet. And you mash it. And you're trying to get, the wet pulp and all the fibers mashed up so you can get the actual juice, right? So at this point, do you have alcohol yet or not? No. I don't know, right? So what happens next is what?
Fermentation.
Fermentation. Yes. So next we have fermentation. And how long do you all think it takes fermentation to complete?
5.
7.
7. Yes, about 7-8 days. Fermentation is complete. How do you know when fermentation is done? Bubbles, right? No more bubbles. Ultimately, we're going to taste the product, and hopefully you're thirsty. And so, I'm sorry, the last part is the distillation. I'll talk a little bit about this as we taste through the Raicilla. But basically, artisanal, the distillations, double distillation, usually takes about 4 hours to complete, and it's through these stainless steel, you can't see them here, but it's through stainless steel containers. What's really cool is when we try the ancestral, is that the distillation is actually with a carved out trunk of a tree. And so you'll be able to actually get some of the characteristics and notes, because when you taste through them, there's definitely a difference there. But I think it is very important to truly appreciate a good spirit or wine. I just have some brief recommendations on how to do sensory. So what's the first thing we do? Do we taste it or do we smell it first? All right. And then what I'll do is I will swirl it, because that'll release some of the aromatics because you're aerating. The majority of your sensing happens through your nose, not necessarily your palate. So what do you all get? Because everyone's sensory is different. So what do you get from, what type of notes do you get from this artisanal?
I get umami and like kind of briny.
Kind of briny.
Yeah, that's like nice.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Guess so. Yeah, I always get, with Raicilla, I always get a little bit of cheese. Since I taste more wines than I do spirits, I'm usually spitting, so that's a nice thing with the spirit, you get to drink it, right? So what I like to do is I like to swirl it around in my mouth, and then I think it says it here on this mat, is you kind of like let it also kind of like breathe in a little and let it hit a little bit of your back palate, because what that does is then it's touching all different parts of your sensory on your palate. Your front, mid, back palate. All right, so we're going to do that. We're like fancy spirit drinkers now. What's going on? What do you get on your palate? What is different?
Acidity. Use the honey and a little bit of oil, like you're tasting olive oil.
Yeah, a little bit, and that's like the texture, right? And that's when what's great about these mats, and if you want to take notes on them, medium or light on your palate. So I would call this maybe a little medium to heavy, because it definitely has some weight, right? But with foods, ask acid is always welcome, especially with fatty foods. So it helps balance it. Everything's about balance. So I agree completely, and the Raicilla is great. I mean, you have to come to the taverna because, like JP said, the food was like, and it's like unending. They just keep feeding you. So you have to be careful when your plate's empty because then it's full again, and then you're like, okay, I guess I have to have more Raicilla because I need to balance things out. But
It's true. It's a whole weekend.
Exactly, the whole weekend, and then but no, you're exactly right. So I think everyone has an ancestral now. So let's look at that, and don't cheat. Look at the tasting notes. But go ahead and do the same type of sensory that we tried at the beginning. Characteristics, and if you look at the color. Believe it or not, as a wine and spirits consultant, I am colorblind, so that always makes things a little bit difficult. But so I have to rely on your nose, right? There usually would be a little more like a darker color. So that's something to look up, to keep in mind, even when you're tasting other type of spirits. You know, if you're looking at an añejo or something like that, even like a white wine will age, and when it ages, it gets yellow, it gets darker, right? So just kind of keep those things in mind. Now that we've done our professional sniffing and our aromatic sensory, let's go ahead and taste it if you haven't already. What are your thoughts on that?
That's some good stuff.
That is some good stuff.
I want to mention a quick note on bottle. It's a lime bottle, and with this bottle we exported to Italy and China, and we were pretty amazed by the results. We started with a bottle that is recycled glass, and we made our own mold. It takes a lot of effort to produce. And it's really valuable. So we want to give it a nice presentation so you can just go and hand it to...
Making the Raicilla, it needs to be expressed in the finished product too, I mean, look at the cork, how cool is that, right? And so, these are things that you could hold on to, and like JP said, that it's a gift, it's a gift from generations of families that are making the Raicilla. For the ancestral, after towards the end of it, did you taste anything different from your first couple of sips? Because that will happen. Just like if you have a coffee and it's hot, it tastes different than a coffee that's cold. That's how I always determine what is a good coffee, because if it tastes good hot and it tastes good cold, its beans are going on, right? And it was brewed properly. I should have told you, and I'm a bad instructor, educator, to keep a little of each one, because it's always good to revisit, because then you can also always see what you want.
They keep taking
They keep taking the classes. So it's
I
not my
stand up 1 minute.
It's not my fault.
Like I'm gonna put a change.
I think we're going to go on to the puntas, which is our last one. The first two types of Raicilla that we tried. You remember all that? Very good. So higher alcohol level. So the alcohol level is 55%. What else is different?
Only it's on the first distillation.
It's more expensive.
It's
More expensive.
It's more expensive.
That bottle.
And it only goes through one distillation.
And how many bottles a year? JP?
100 so far.
And that's why the price on that one is in the
And
thousands.
I just want to say, you still have a bubble in it. Do you have any bubble in it? Really interesting. And when we say experience, it's because the knowledge or skill you can learn, right? So when we see a bottle and you're at the bottle shop and see the bubbles and how they form, and it doesn't dissolve quickly, is around 50 ABV. That's 50% alcohol and 50% water and flavors and the color of the liquid. If we do that with puntas, we will see that the bubbles will remain in the color, and that is when you know it's a traditional made agave spirit.
Kind of do it like as a treat to themselves, right? Because you're only doing one distillation, so you're getting more of a raw form, right? So you're getting, sure you're getting higher sugar and higher alcohol, so be careful. But it is definitely, I think, very expressive. And even though it's a higher alcohol, to me, it's more expressive than the artisanal. So it's each three of them, they're like your kids, right? Each one, you love them all, but they're just different. And so I don't have anything more to add other than hoping that I helped you guide through the different tastings of these three different Raicillas and that we learned something with respect to the production process. And more importantly, that you see the hard work that goes into making the Raicilla that's in your glass. So I'm just grateful that Anna and JP invited me and that I got to spend time with you this evening. Thank you for